Kind of a little late on this one, as I was reviewing the EK68 and Rakk Sinag98 during the Christmas season. Nevertheless, the V65 is a keyboard made in collaboration by CIDOO and FinalKey, the ones who brought you the original 65A, which is such an underrated keyboard for its price. Now, they're back with the V65 in hopes to satisfy the mid-range market, offering a CNC Aluminum body with Bluetooth and BIA built-in. The question is, does it live up to the hype? Let's find out. Before starting off with this video, I have to disclose that FinalKey did send this out for review, but as always, that will not affect my opinions on the keyboard. They are watching this video at the same time as you do. Opening the simple silver box reveals the keycaps that came included with the board. I got mine in this maroon colorway that is quite unique to see on a budget board. You usually only get black or white at this price range. Moving on, we see the included FR4 plate that you could opt to use rather than the PC. More on that in a bit. Going further in, we see the stunning V65 in all of its maroon glory, with a PC plate, foam, and PCB already installed. Right beside it are the pouring gaskets that will be used for the mounting system. Underneath all of that is a manual for the V65, and in the two compartments on top lives the knob, Type-C cable, screw-in stabs, as well as a keycap and switch puller combo, an Allen key to open the board up, and some rubber feet for the back case. Quite a complete package for a bare bones unit. You just need to add switches into the mix, and you'll have a full keyboard already. The V65 is a unique keyboard in which for the price, you're able to get an aluminum board with a standard feature of having BIA and Bluetooth out of the box. And weighing in at 1.3 kilograms fully built, the V65 is one hefty boy. For the basic specs, it's a 65% mechanical keyboard with a blocker on the bottom to separate out the arrow keys, as well as a knob on the top right for the volume control, just like what we have seen on the EK68 previously, as well as the Zoom65. This is perfect for those who want a compact keyboard but don't want to exclude some nav keys and the arrow keys into the mix. You could say that this board doesn't have uniqueness on its layout, but in all honesty, I find this layout quite balanced all things considered, and the volume knob makes up for the omission of a key on the top right. Talking about the aluminum body, the board is built like a tank, having no cracks or marks of imperfection. I do have to note to you that the maroon I got seems to have a glitter finish applied to it that can only be seen in direct light. On the front, we have the previously mentioned 65% layout encapsulated in a bevel-like design on the top and bottom. The side bezels are 7mm thick, quite nicely proportioned with a 13mm rear bezel on top. The front height is about 19mm and it extends to about 32mm on the rear. This results into a comfortable 7-degree typing angle that can't be adjusted sadly. On the side we see a wedge-like design with a place to easily lift up the board. You can also see the two-piece construction extending to the rear of the case. Speaking of the rear, here we see the recessed Type-C port as well as the Bluetooth switch. And thankfully, these two components are housed in a daughter board and will not be stressed out by the text of the keyboard. Moving on to the back, we see a nice grill-like design in the middle, partnered up by the two brands badge as well as the rubber feet that hides the screws underneath. A great design nonetheless, but I wish that the feet aren't held on by the adhesives, as you lose the stickiness of the adhesive every time you want to disassemble the board. Luckily, you have 4 extra rubber feet included, but still, it's a compromise nonetheless. Going over the PCB, it's a 5-pin hot swappable design with a south-facing switch configuration, perfect for cherry profile compatibility. I'm also quite surprised to see that the PCB here isn't bombarded by flex cuts, a win if you ask me, as this will retain the sound much better with the compromise on flex. Oh, and it does support screw-ins and clip-ins as well. In short, the PCB is boring, which is good. It doesn't have any fatal flaws. And the only suggestion I have is to have more layout support, like maybe a step caps lock. But other than that, this ticks all the boxes for no compromise PCB. The lack of flex cuts is a plus. As for the plate, you have your choice on the polycarbonate as well as the FR4 plate. And as suggested, the PC plate is a default config for this keyboard. You'll hear them both later, but to sum it up, according to keyboard charts, expect the PC plate to have an overall deeper sound output in comparison to the FR4. Switches fit nicely on the plates included, and I haven't had any issues with bowing or misalignment at all. Moving on to the mounting style, this uses your standard gasket mount with thick poron foams on the bottom and thin poron foam on top, sandwiching the PCB assembly and plate in the middle. This is to be able to be isolated from the case, and I'm pleased to say that it works quite nicely. You overall get an even sound and typing experience with the gasket mount, and though it's quite stiff with all the foams, just removing them piece by piece can introduce more bounce to the board. It's just up to your personal preferences. Definitely going for the PC plate and removing all the foams increases the bounce. And on the other spectrum, going to the FR4 and all foam makes it sound fuller, but you sure lose out on the bounciness of the build. What surprised me the most are the included keycaps. Sure, it might look like it's inspired by the PBT Pans Figa, but the sound it makes are great. Measuring 1.5mm thick and having an ABS injection molded design makes this such a nice addition to the board, and I think it completes it. And sure, the legends might be on the meh side, but compared to the PBT Olivia you got with the original Zoom65, and this leaps miles ahead from the competition. I'd say if FinalKey is watching this, they should sell this set on its own, as this is great. Going on with the build proper, I first opened up the case with the included Allen key to get a hold of the PCB assembly. After that, I started lubing the included stabs, and for what they're worth, they are actually great. They're balanced out of the box, and I didn't even retune them after the build. Just a simple dab of XHD, DBC, and it's alright already. Kudos to CIDOO or FinalKey for finding a great bender for the stabs. But moving on, I then mounted in all the foams that sit in between the PCB and PC plate, of which I include the PE and plate foam, to hear it in its stock config. I then mounted in my Gateran All Kings, as this is one of my go-to linears ever since Kurt Bro sent them out to me. If you haven't used code KurtCTech, go and do so and save up to 5% off on your next purchase on them. Anyways, lastly I fixed the gaskets on the case proper, making sure the thick ones are on the bottom while the thin ones are on the top, effectively doing the gasket mount. And finally, I added in the included keycaps that came with the kit. And here is the FinalKey V65. What did you think? For the price, I'm quite impressed of the sound it makes. It provides a clean sound overall, with a hint of the Oil Kings peeking in on the FR4 and PC plate. The stabs are easily tuned, and the overall build experience was easy, unlike their previous boards. Lastly, I tested this out with no foam on FR4 plus tape mod to see what the board sounds like with a simple mod. And suffice to say, it sounds awesome. Hear for yourself. Discussing over the Bluetooth and battery for this keyboard, I'm quite pleased with its longevity, all things considered. The board has an onboard 3000 mAh battery, and in the weeks I tested it, not once did it went low battery. Sadly though, I was getting connectivity issues on my desktop, even though the Bluetooth dongle was close. But this did not happen on my laptop, so I'll blame the dongle on that. Also note that in Bluetooth mode, RGB is turned off by FinalKey. A thing to consider if you want to use the RGB while in wireless mode. Overall, the Bluetooth is a nice addition, and it being VIA compatible as well is a nice touch. I just wish that it offered the user the ability to turn on the RGB, even if technically it's a battery hogging feature. So what are my overall thoughts on this keyboard? I think it's great. It's a Zoom65 minus the expansive colorways and weight for half the price. If you want a wireless aluminum keyboard that's VIA compatible as well, this is a bargain. If you told me a year ago that you're getting this package for only $61.99, I wouldn't believe it. But then again, FinalKey has some problems with its overseas customers, and that might be a thing to consider. Thankfully though, in the Philippine market, I haven't heard any issues about them, and it seems like the early adopters are delighted with their purchases. If FinalKey addresses my issues with the board, like the rubber feet, RGB, and connectivity issues, then this would be even better. But for now, all I'll say is that if you're eyeing this board, then go get it. And if FinalKey fixes my complaints, this might be the best budget board around. What about you? Which keyboard do you think fights head to head with the value you're getting with this keyboard? Leave them down in the comment section below. That's been it. I'm John J. Binuaba, and I'll see you in the next video.